The Lion in the Stars. The void beyond Antares Station glittered with enemy ships, their obsidian hulls absorbing starlight like hungry shadows. Captain Ilara Chen stood at the command deck viewport, her scarred hands clasped behind her back as she watched the void-born armada inch closer to the final defensive line humanity had managed to establish. "Status report," she said, her voice steady despite the weight pressing down on her chest. Lieutenant Marcus Reeves looked up from his console, dark circles under his eyes betraying the 72 hours he'd gone without proper sleep. Shield capacity at 63%. Ammunition reserves for main cannons at 47%. The Hermes and Athena are reporting similar numbers. Ilara nodded. 3 ships against an armada. The last vestiges of Earth's defense fleet, tasked with holding back an enemy that had already consumed 17 colony worlds. "And the evacuation?" she asked. 70% complete. Civilian transports are still loading from the station. They need another 6 hours minimum. 6 hours they didn't have. The Voidborn would be in firing range in less than 2. "Captain," communications officer Zaralima's voice cut through the tense silence. "We're receiving a transmission. It's not on any known frequency." Ilara turned, eyebrow raised. "The Voidborn are trying to communicate." "No, ma'am. It's coming from the nebula." Lima pointed to the swirling purple and blue gases that bordered the sector to their port side. "The signature doesn't match anything in our database." "Put it through." Static filled the bridge before resolving into a voice, melodic but strained, as if speaking required tremendous effort. "Please, Sanctuary. We are pursued. Like you." The bridge crew exchanged glances. "Identify yourself," Ilara demanded. "We are Lumiri. Refugees. The darkness hunts us, as it hunts you." A soft ping from the sensor station drew Ilara's attention. Chief Science Officer Kavita Sharma was bent over her scanner, eyes wide. "Captain, I'm detecting multiple vessels emerging from the nebula. Small. Nothing like Voidborn architecture." The main screen shifted to show a cluster of crystalline ships, each no larger than a shuttle, their hulls refracting starlight in prismatic patterns. They were beautiful and clearly damaged, with fractures spreading across their surfaces like spiderwebs. "How many life signs?" Ilara asked. "Approximately 2,000, Sharma replied. "Their biology is unusual, almost energy-based." The voice came again, more urgent now. "Please, we have children. Our homeworld is gone." The Void Eaters came without warning. Ilara's jaw tightened. The story was achingly familiar. "They're being pursued," Tactical Officer Wei said suddenly. "I'm picking up Voidborn scout ships changing course to intercept. Put us between them and the Lumiri vessels," Ilara ordered without hesitation. "Captain," Executive Officer Dmitry Volkov cleared his throat. "Protocol dictates." "I know what protocol dictates, XO, Ilara cut him off. "But I'm not leaving refugees to die. Not again." The memory of Proxima Centauri flashed unwanted in her mind. The colony ships they'd been forced to abandon when the Voidborn descended. 10,000 lives, gone in seconds. She'd followed orders then. The weight of those deaths still haunted her. The Dauntless moved to intercept, engines flaring as the massive battleship positioned itself as a shield for the smaller crystalline vessels. "Open a channel to the Lumiri." When Lima nodded, Ilara continued, "This is Captain Chen of the Earth Defense Force vessel Dauntless. We'll cover your approach. Can your ship dock with our station?" "Yes," came the reply, relief evident in the alien voice. "Thank you. We did not know if there was mercy left in this galaxy." The words stung more than they should have. "Captain," Lima interrupted. "Priority transmission from command." Ilara nodded, and Admiral Costa's weathered face appeared on screen, his expression grim as always. "Captain Chen, our sensors show unknown vessels approaching your position." "Refugees, sir. They're fleeing the Voidborn, just like our people." The Admiral's eyes hardened. You know our resources are stretched beyond breaking. We can barely evacuate our own civilians. With respect, sir, we can't just leave them. Your orders are to maintain position and delay the Voidborn advance until the evacuation is complete. Nothing more. He leaned closer to the screen, voice dropping. The Icarus Protocol has been authorized, Captain. The bridge fell silent. Everyone knew what Icarus Protocol meant. A last resort nuclear saturation of the entire sector once evacuation was complete. It would destroy the station, the Voidborn fleet, and anything else in the vicinity, including the Lumiri refugees. Admiral, these people are survivors, just like us. They could be allies. Or they could be what drew the Voidborn here in the first place. Costa interrupted. We've lost too much gambling on unknowns. The protocol is activated, Captain. Your orders are to ensure our evacuation and then withdraw your vessel to the designated safe distance. Is that understood? Ilara stared at the screen, the weight of command pressing down on her shoulders. Understood, sir. The transmission ended, and Ilara turned to find her entire bridge crew watching her, waiting. Continue defensive operations, she said finally, and prepare to receive the Lumiri vessels. Volkov stepped closer, keeping his voice low. Captain, the Admiral's orders. We're to protect our evacuation and withdraw to safety, Ilara finished. Which we will do. But we're not leaving innocent refugees to die, even if it means disobeying a direct order regarding Icarus Protocol. She met his gaze steadily. Get me everything we have on the Lumiri. I want to know who we're helping before I decide how far to take this. The next hour passed in a blur of controlled chaos. The Voidborn scout ships pressed their attack, testing the Dauntless's defenses while the main armada continued its slow, inexorable approach. The Lumiri vessels, meanwhile, limped toward Antares Station, their crystalline hulls glittering despite the damage they'd sustained. Sharma appeared at Ilara's side as she monitored the tactical display, datapad in hand. Captain, I've been analyzing the data we've gathered on the Lumiri. Their physiology is remarkable, partially crystalline, capable of absorbing and redirecting energy. And their ships. She paused, eyes shining with scientific excitement despite the crisis. They're not just vessels. They're extensions of the Lumiri themselves. Meaning? Meaning they have a symbiotic relationship with their technology, and they might be far more resistant to Voidborn attacks than we are. Ilara's attention sharpened. Throughout humanity's desperate 3-year war against the Voidborn, they'd found nothing that could resist the enemy's energy-draining weapons, the same weapons that had turned Earth's most advanced defenses into dead metal. How resistant? I can't be certain without more data, but the readings suggest they've survived multiple direct hits that would have crippled our vessels. The tactical display flickered as another barrage from the Voidborn scouts hammered the Dauntless's shields. Shields at 42%, Way reported. The Athena is down to 30%. Maintain position, Ilara ordered. What's the status of the Lumiri? First vessels docking now, Lima confirmed. Station security reports they're orderly, mostly families. Many injured. The comm chimed again. Captain, Admiral Costa is demanding an update. Ilara took a deep breath. Tell him we're engaged with Voidborn scouts and will report when the situation stabilizes. She turned to Volkov. XO, you have the bridge. I'm going to the station to see our guests for myself. The docking bay was crowded with station personnel and the first wave of Lumiri refugees. Ilara paused at the entrance, momentarily taken aback by the aliens' appearance. Humanoid in general shape, their bodies seemed to shift between solid matter and translucent crystal, pulsing with internal light that changed color with their movements. Where humans had hair, the Lumiri possessed delicate crystalline filaments that chimed softly as they moved. A taller figure separated from the group, approaching Ilara with deliberate steps. Up close, she could see patterns swirling beneath its semi-transparent skin, like galaxies in miniature. Captain, it said, and she recognized the voice from the transmission. I am Varen, speaker for the Lumiri remnant. We owe you our existence. Don't thank me yet, Ilara replied grimly. We're all still in danger. The Voidborn main fleet will reach us within the hour, and my superiors have ordered a nuclear cleansing of this sector once our evacuation is complete. Varan's internal lights pulsed rapidly. Alarm, perhaps. Then we have merely exchanged one death for another. Not if I can help it. Ilara studied the alien carefully. My science officer tells me your people have some resistance to Voidborn weapons. Is that true? Yes. Our crystalline nature absorbs and redirects energy. It is why the Void Eaters hunt us so relentlessly. We are difficult prey. A ripple of darker color passed through Varan's form. But we are not warriors. Our civilization valued creation, not destruction. Sometimes survival requires both, Ilara said softly. How many of your people survived? 812 adults. 593 children. Varan's voice wavered. From a civilization of billions, we are all that remains. The numbers hit Ilara like a physical blow. Humanity was on the brink, yes, but they still had millions scattered across their remaining colonies. The Lumiri were facing extinction. Her comm unit chirped. Captain, Volkov's voice was tight with tension. Main Voidborn fleet has accelerated. 20 minutes to weapon range, and Admiral Costa is on the channel again. He's ordering immediate withdrawal. The Icarus countdown has started. Ilara looked at Varan, whose crystalline body had dimmed in response to the news. You heard? Yes, Varan replied. Your kind hearing is actually quite limited in comparison. Despite everything, Ilara found herself smiling. Tell me, Varan, if your people can absorb and redirect energy, what would happen if you absorbed the energy from nuclear warheads? The alien's body brightened suddenly, internal constellations swirling faster. It would be unprecedented, dangerous, but theoretically we could channel it into a weapon against the Voidborn. Perhaps. Varan tilted his crystalline head. You would risk your career, possibly your life, on a theory. Ilara's expression hardened as she activated her comm. Sometimes that's all we have. XO, I'm returning to the bridge, and we're adjusting our plans. Defiance and discovery. The Dauntless's bridge was a storm of activity when Ilara returned, officers calling out reports as the massive Voidborn fleet dominated the view screen. No longer a distant threat, the enemy armada filled the starfield with their obsidian bulk. Thousands of ships ranging from nimble fighters to behemoths larger than Antara Station itself. Status, Ilara demanded, striding to the command chair. Voidborn will be in firing range in 16 minutes, Way reported. Evacuation of Antara Station is at 84% complete. Icarus protocol warheads are armed and tracking. Volkov added, his expression carefully neutral. Admiral Costa has ordered our withdrawal. Twice. And the Lumiri? 70% of their vessels have docked, Lima said. The remainder are still too damaged to attempt docking maneuvers. They're being guided in by our shuttles. Ilara nodded, mind racing. I need a direct channel to Varan. And Patch and Dr. Sharma from the science lab. When both connections were established, she leaned forward. Varan, we're implementing a new plan. Dr. Sharma has been studying your physiology and believes your people can not only absorb the energy from our warheads, but potentially redirect it. Captain, Sharma's voice cut in. I should emphasize this is highly theoretical. The amount of energy we're talking about. Is it possible? Ilara pressed. A moment of silence, then, yes. With the right configuration, it's possible. Good. Ilara turned to tactical. Why, I need a new deployment pattern for the Icarus warheads. Instead of a saturation spread, I want them positioned here. She indicated a pattern on the display. Volkov studied the new arrangement, understanding dawning. You're creating a channel, funneling the Voidborn fleet directly into the path of whatever the Lumiri can throw at them, Ilara confirmed. But for this to work, we need to modify the warhead detonation sequence. The Lumiri need to absorb that energy before it dissipates. Captain, Volkov said quietly, this constitutes direct interference with the Icarus Protocol. It's treason. Ilara met his gaze steadily. It's a chance to not only save these refugees, but potentially gain a weapon against an enemy that's pushed us to the brink of extinction. I'm willing to face a court-martial for that opportunity. She looked around the bridge. Anyone who objects can log their protest officially and will face no repercussions from me. No one moved. Very well. She turned back to the comm. Varan, can your people form a focusing array? Something to channel the energy they absorb. Yes, but we would need to use our ships. The remaining vessels that haven't docked. Those ships contain people, Ilara pointed out. They contain volunteers, Varan corrected. Those vessels were too damaged to sustain long-term life support anyway. Their pilots knew this might be their last journey. The implication hung in the air. The Lumiri were offering a sacrifice. How many? Ilara asked. 87 adults. No children. Ilara closed her eyes briefly, feeling the weight of those lives. Are you certain they understand what will happen? They understand survival requires both creation and destruction, Captain. Varan's words echoed her own from earlier. They choose this. Bridge to Captain, the comms officer interrupted. Admiral Costa is hailing again. He sounds not happy. Put him through. Admiral Costa's face appeared on screen, anger evident in every line of his weathered features. Captain Chen, you are in direct violation of orders. The Dauntless was to withdraw 10 minutes ago. Explain yourself. Admiral, we've discovered the Lumiri possess unique abilities that may give us an advantage against the Voidborn. We're modifying the Icarus Protocol to test this capability. You're gambling with our last line of defense on an alien species we know nothing about. Have you lost your mind? With respect, sir, we've been losing this war since it started. Our conventional tactics aren't working. The Lumiri can absorb and redirect energy, including the energy from our warheads. If this works, we'll have a weapon that can actually harm the Voidborn. Costa's eyes narrowed. And if it fails, we lose our last defensive line, the warheads, and any chance of evacuating the remaining civilians. If we do nothing different, we lose anyway, Ilara countered. This is a risk worth taking. I'm relieving you of command, effective immediately. XO Volkov will. Belay that, Admiral. Volkov interrupted, stepping forward. The entire bridge crew supports Captain Chen's decision. We've seen the data on the Lumiri capabilities. This plan has merit. Costa's face flushed with fury. This is mutiny. This is our best chance for survival, Ilara said quietly. I take full responsibility for the outcome, whatever it may be. For a long moment, silence stretched between them. Then, surprisingly, a hint of resignation crept into Costa's expression. You have one shot at this, Captain. If it fails, the fallback position doesn't have enough resources to sustain what's left of our fleet. We all die. Understood, sir. The transmission ended, and Ilara exhaled slowly, aware of her crew watching. All right, she said. Let's make this work. Wei, coordinate with Dr. Sharma on the warhead modifications. Lima, I need a direct channel to the Lumiri vessels forming the array. Volkov, oversee the evacuation. I want every civilian off that station in the next 10 minutes. As her crew sprang into action, Ilara turned back to the viewport, watching the Voidborn fleet grow larger with each passing minute. Their black ships seemed to absorb not just energy, but hope itself, a void eating its way through the stars. Captain, Wei called out. Warheads repositioned. Detonation sequencers modified. Lumiri array is in position, Lima added. Varan says they're ready to begin the absorption process. On the tactical display, Ilara could see the remaining Lumiri ships arranged in a crescent formation at the edge of the nebula, their crystalline structures already beginning to pulse with increasing brightness. Voidborne fleet entering weapon range in 3 minutes, Tactical reported. They're launching fighter squadrons. Hermes and Athena report ready to engage, Lima said. Ilara straightened, feeling the weight of the moment. All ships, defensive formation. Protect the station and the Lemuria array. Weapons free. The space between the fleets lit up as the first barrage of voidborne energy weapons lanced toward the human ships. The Dauntless shuddered as its shields absorbed the initial impacts. Return fire, Ilara ordered. Full spread. Draw them toward the channel we've created. The Dauntless's main guns roared to life, sending streams of magnetically accelerated projectiles toward the enemy. Most bounced harmlessly off the voidborne hulls, but a few found vulnerable points, causing explosions that ripple through the void. Shields at 30%. Way reported as another barrage hit them. The Hermes is taking heavy damage. On the tactical display, Ilara could see the voidborne fleet shifting, concentrating their fire on the human vessels while beginning to move into the artificial channel created by the positioned warheads. Exactly as she'd hoped. Station reports evacuation complete. Lima announced. Last transports are away. Signal the Hermes and Athena to begin withdrawal, Ilara ordered. Maintain position here until they're clear. Captain, Sharma's voice came through the comm. The Lemuria array is showing unprecedented energy readings. They're ready. Ilara nodded grimly. On my mark, initiate the Icarus sequence. All decks, brace for impact. The bridge crew secured themselves as the voidborne fleet pressed forward, their advance seemingly unstoppable as they filled the channel created by the strategically placed warheads. Icarus sequence ready, Way confirmed, finger hovering over the control. Ilara watched the tactical display, waiting for the perfect moment when the bulk of the voidborne fleet was positioned within the channel. Now, Way's finger descended, and for a split second, nothing happened. Then space itself seemed to tear apart as the Icarus warheads detonated in perfect sequence, creating a ring of nuclear fire that enclosed the voidborne fleet. The Dauntless rocked violently as the shockwave hit, systems blaring warnings across the bridge. Shields critical, someone shouted over the chaos. Ilara gripped her chair, eyes fixed on the viewscreen where the Lemuria array was now visible as a blinding point of light, their crystalline ships absorbing the incredible energy released by the warheads. They're holding. Sharma's voice was filled with disbelief. The absorption is working. The light from the Lemuria ships grew until it was painful to look at, their crescent formation now a solid arc of pure energy. Energy levels beyond anything our sensors can measure, Sharma reported. They're preparing to redirect. A new sound filled the bridge, not an alarm, but a haunting, crystalline tone that seemed to vibrate through the hull itself. The Lemuria were singing, their voices carrying through space in a way that defied conventional physics. Then, with a flash that temporarily blinded everyone on the bridge, the Lemuria released the absorbed energy in a focused beam that cut through the heart of the voidborne fleet. Where the beam touched, the black ships didn't explode. They simply ceased to exist, disintegrating into particles too small to see. The beam swept through the enemy armada like a scythe, carving a path of total destruction. When Ilara could see again, she stared in disbelief at the viewscreen. Where thousands of voidborne ships had been, only scattered debris remained, tumbling through space. The heart of their fleet, gone. Status report, she managed, her voice hoarse. Shields at 7%. Y responded, sounding equally stunned. Minimal structural damage. The Hermes and Athena report similar conditions. The Lemuria array. A pause. Gone, Captain. The energy release appears to have consumed them. 87 volunteers. Ilara closed her eyes briefly, honoring their sacrifice. Captain, Lima called out, voice urgent. I'm receiving a transmission from within the nebula. It's Varan. Put it through. The alien's voice filled the bridge, weaker than before but unmistakable. The sacrifice is complete. Our brothers and sisters have joined with the cosmic flow. But their energy, their essence, remains. We have shown you the way, Captain. The way? Ilara asked. To fight the Void Eaters. Their weakness is not physical but fundamental. They consume energy. We transform it. Together, perhaps both our species can survive. The tactical display updated, showing the remaining Voidborn ships regrouping at the edge of the system, still numerous, but clearly disorganized after losing their central command vessels. They'll be back, Volkov murmured. Yes, Ilara agreed. But now we have a way to fight them. She opened a channel to Admiral Costa. Admiral, the Icarus protocol was successful, but not in the way we planned. The Lumiri have proven themselves not just refugees but potential allies with capabilities we desperately need. Costa's face appeared on screen, his expression a mix of disbelief and reluctant admiration. I saw the sensor readings, Captain. I've already dispatched research teams to rendezvous with the Dauntless. This partnership with the Lumiri will be explored fully. Thank you, sir. After the transmission ended, Ilara stood and moved to the viewport, gazing out at the nebula where the remaining Lumiri ships were gathering, their crystalline hulls reflecting starlight in prismatic patterns. Set course to rendezvous with the Lumiri, she ordered, and open a channel to Varan. Tell him humanity remembers its debts. As the Dauntless turned toward the nebula, Ilara reflected on the day's events. They had been prepared to condemn the Lumiri to death, to turn the sector to ash in a desperate bid for survival. Instead, the aliens had shown them a new path, one where energy could be transformed rather than simply destroyed. Perhaps there was a lesson there for humanity itself. Captain, Lima said softly, interrupting her thoughts. Message from Varan. In the darkness between stars, we found an unexpected light. May our peoples shine together against the void. Ilara nodded, a small smile touching her lips despite the gravity of their situation. Send a reply. From ash and fire, new possibilities emerge. We will face the darkness together. Behind them, the stars continued their silent vigil as two species, each the last hope of their kind, prepared to forge a new path through a universe that had almost consumed them both. Retroclaude can make mistakes. Please double-check responses.